Where has OSCE succeeded since it was first stood up, and where do you see it going?
Well, the OSCE, I would say, was very instrumental in bringing about the end of the Cold War, helping manage the new phase after the Cold War. So that, I would say, is one key legacy of the organization, but it's also the basis for the work ahead, because a number of issues that have not really been being addressed fully are haunting us, and a number of unresolved problems have become bigger and more difficult to handle.
Such as?
The crisis in Ukraine, but what is underneath the crisis in Ukraine. I think the biggest problem we have is that we basically dealt with the post-Cold War phase with a kind of a Cold War mentality. Now, in a changed environment, are not working so well because there are the preservation of the status quo is not good enough, and there are countries. Russia is looking, for instance, at its new situation, looking at the impact of the enlargement of NATO towards the east, or the enlargement of the European Union towards the east. These processes have probably been managed without the necessary degree of engagement with Russia, which now feels under pressure and feels uncomfortable.
Could it be argued that perhaps the West has been engaging with Russia in a Western mindset?
Well, this is what we are seeing now, actually, and so this would lead me to argue that you probably are right, that we should have had this discussion with Russia earlier. Minister Lavrov in Munich, I was last week at the security conference there, was really talking about the end of a Western-centered world, and he was saying now it is a new phase where the West will be much weaker in a way. And part of this is the fact that Russia feels that it was not fully part of the development of the new security structures, if you want, that govern European security over the last 20 years or so. And so it's now coming back with a number of grudges.
Is there an out-of-the-box way of resolving this crisis, or are we on an inevitable path to seeing the eastern third of Ukraine break away, declare independence, perhaps be subsumed by Moscow?
The OSCE has been built for that. So it is a framework that can serve to try to explore areas for engagement if there is the political will to do that. Today, the logic that prevails is the logic of sanctions. So there is very little dialogue. We have statements, and we have a very adversarial relationship between the countries of the organization. You don't need an organization for that. So we want to see the heavy weapons withdrawn into pre-designated areas far from the lines of contact. If we manage to stabilize the situation on the line of contact, then the other bits can fall into place. And this may complicate the life for the processes that we have in mind in the longer term based on the Minsk agreements, which is the decentralization in Ukraine and the holding of elections.
Is there a realistic chance of getting everything under Minsk implemented in 2017?
Yes, of course, we can only improve from where we are. There is a mechanism that involves Russian and Ukrainian military, so we are working with them, because at the end of the day, it's the responsibility of the people on the ground. Our mandate is to monitor, we try to facilitate, we try to assist the civilians. The more and more are suffering from this situation. But we are pushing the sides to make some steps.
In light of the fact that the new U.S. administration has signaled it wants a changed relationship with NATO, with the United Nations, with other multinational organizations, do you see an opportunity for the UN, for the OSCE, to assume greater influence in trying to resolve regional challenges? And if so, how?
First of all, the OSCE is a very inexpensive organization. It's basically a space for engagement. So it offers quite a flexible tool to countries who want to use it to improve dialogue.
Your advice to your successor?
My advice to the successor would be to continue working to create this informal space for engagement.